Marion and Betska, in this holiday season, how can we, our understanding will be demonstrate with each other, like home, like office, like outside world. So I want you please
Mm.
share with
Thanks,
me.
Raj, and hello. It's understanding is a word that we hear like all the time, right? We have to understand this and we have to show understanding. And I think it's a word that is really undervalued, and not truly understood what it actually even means. And when I think of understanding, especially now that we're getting into the holiday season and we're hopefully spending some time with loved ones, we the understanding, as I see it, is putting ourselves either in somebody else's shoes or truly listening. And that is something that I find is one of the hardest things to do at times. Like we're so in our own heads of, even like in response when somebody says something, and that certainly has happened to me quite a few times too, when I'm responding and I'm not truly listening. And if anything else, that is what matters, to show that we actually care about what somebody else does. And it is the foundation, in my opinion, of truly understanding what this other person is going through, is trying to communicate with us, and is, yeah, where the importance is, and really engaging into that conversation. So ways I would suggest to exhibit this is to stop talking and really listen, and having a conversation that is perhaps more about the other person than it is us, because the reality is everybody likes to have somebody to talk to that is actually listening to what you have to say and not just responding, oh yeah, that's great, I did whatever. And it's something that I think we all experienced, and we're probably all guilty of to some extent, but that is something, especially during the holiday season, I think that can create so much more good times and fulfilling times and quality time that we that I would recommend, if you don't do that already, that maybe with more of a conscious mind, you're going towards that.
Some of you may be wondering, why is Betska wearing these goofy glasses, right? Yeah. I had an aunt many years ago. She was such a sweetheart, and I would go over to her house for tea. And I'd be talking, and she'd say, wait a minute, I can't hear you. I need to put my glasses on. Right? She needed to have her glasses on in order to hear me. How odd, I thought. Yeah. But basically, I think what she was saying in her own little way was that when we are listening to someone, it's important that we hear them and see them through a different lens. So just like Marion said, getting to know who they are and what they're all about. So I have two favorite questions when I'm talking to someone. I would always say, well, how do you feel about that? Instead of asking someone, well, what do you think about that? Think is head, right? But how do you feel about this and that? Then they really open up and you get to understand, use that value of understanding, right? Another question, it's a coaching question, but really works well when we're coaching someone, is, so what is really bothering you deep down at a heart level? Or in your heart, what would you like to celebrate today? See the power of those types of questions. I use them all the time. But my main point is, I think, again, what my aunt was trying to tell me, and I always used to laugh. What do you mean you need your glasses on in order to hear me, right? They're two different senses, right? Hearing and sight. But she was right, now that I look back. And so that's why I'm wearing these goofy glasses, is to remind us to take the time to see someone through different eyes, through a different lens. And whether we are out with our, talking to neighbors, taking the time to ask them questions, get to know them a little bit better. In some countries, I know that is invasive. But you know what? If more people took the time to ask people questions, genuine questions, because they really want to get to know them better, then I think we would have a much better world. We'd have a peaceful world. We'd have a more joyful world. Joy and peace are the words on our stockings here this Christmas.
Yeah, it brings up an interesting point, Betska, because I think it's the focus that moves from us to somebody else. That's what it's all about, because we can't show compassion, kindness, understanding, or empathy for that matter if it's all about us. And if we're acting out of our own, like what is happening in our world, none of those feelings and values can really translate into somebody else. And as a result, it doesn't create that connection that we are all looking for. So I think from having that focus move away from us and allowing that to move away from us and really engaging with somebody else to be willing to see beyond maybe our own expectations, our own experiences, disappointments, whatever the case might have been, and opening that up is so beautiful.
It kind of reminds me of the story I believe I've shared before, and that is about this dog that lives down the road, and he was very abused. He was thrown into dog fighting. He was the bait, right? And so once the caregiver told me his story, my compassion towards that animal just went from here all the way up to there, right? And so John and my husband and I were walking the other day, and I said, God, if I had tons of money, I would go and offer the caregiver, buy this dog a great big bed and put a heating pad in it, because when we understand someone's story, we can more easily share our hearts with them. Yeah.
And isn't that true for all the human beings out there? Isn't that true for everybody? We all have a story, and when we learn about somebody's story, and perhaps that is the part that is so important even in the entrepreneurship or in the corporate life too, that when we really understand what somebody's story is and emotionally attach somewhat, then it's a much more meaningful relationship. And so I think that is a component of it too, that it's not just with animals, it's like with all of humanity and with everybody involved.
So I invite
a piece.
Yeah, exactly. So I invite all of our viewers to put on a different lens, a different set of glasses, and see how we can understand each other, and to write back to us and tell us how you exhibited understanding. And I dare anybody out there to get a more wild pair of glasses. If you do, send us a picture. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.
Can anybody out there hear me? Hear me?